Okay, we would like to do this exercise basically, and I'd like to introduce to you these static methods using this exercise. Now, if I'd like to answer this question without static methods, what I would like to do, then if I'd like to create that something like that, let me just cancel, bring back how it was, so I can. Okay, this is how it was before. Let's close this and create a new project. I'm going to call it week 14 static exercise 1. So if I'd like to do this, do I need a class to solve this exercise? No. Well, yes, I need this class. I mean, the one that has the main. But all I need, I can put the code in the main. I don't need to really. It's not necessary for me to create a class because I don't know what kind of thing I would like to do. If I just would like to solve this, to have the sum of all integer values from an input given by the user. So if the user gives me an input, I'm going to just sum up all the numbers up to that number. So what I would like to do is basically just declare a scanner because I need to read from the user system.in, and then I'm going to ask the user, please enter a number. So once the user enters the number, I need to have a variable for the number and another variable for the sum. So the sum generally I need to initialize to 0, right? Because if I need to do something that sums, we need to start from 0. And because it's something that might require a loop, as you can see, this like 5 plus 4 plus 3. There's something like the factorial, but with a plus, with an addition instead of a multiplication. So if I'd like to do such a thing, what would I have to do is to put this number equal this key.next int. So I'd like to I called it key n, okay, next int. And now that I have the number, I need a for loop that will start from basically from 1, because I'd like to add to do what? To do 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, and I stopped at 5. If the user enters 6, which means I just sum up all up to 5. So which means I should start from 1 and then plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 up to this number that was entered to the user, less than, not equal, because I don't want it to be equal. And then what should happen here? What should happen here is this. Now I is going to be 1. I add 1 to the sum. Then it will be 2, added to the sum. Then 3, added to the sum. Then 4, then 5. That will be 6, but when it's 6, this will make it false, so I get out. And then if I display now, the sum is, and I can display the sum. Now if I run this thing, it gives me the number. Let's put 6, the sum is 15. If I really would like to test it and see the values, I can do it. For example, I don't know, let's do the sum. I can do something like the sum of, without going back to, I mean this, I can go back to the line here, but here for example I can display something like this without going back to the line. The sum of, I can just put for example all the values here, again without ln, and I put this I and a space. The sum of 1, and then maybe put a space, 1, 2, 3, and all of these, and then I put here is, and then I go back to the line. So I print without going back to the line, print without going back to the line, then print and go back to the line. The advantage is that if I enter 6, the sum of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 15. So that's what I'm going to see, because this is going to display the numbers, and I don't need to have this here, space here. And if I put 5, So the sum of 1, 2, 3, 4 is 10. Is it? That's 7 plus 3, that's 10. So that's a very simple program, because the main thing is not about the program itself, but about now static methods. Now the static method takes as an input and returns the sum of all the integers. Now I would like to make it as a method that takes as an input a number and then returns. So if I'd like to create a method, now I'm going to make it public. What should it be? It should return something. The sum. The sum for me is int, so I'm going to make it public int. What's the name that we can use? There's no name that was suggested, so I could use calculate. No, let's call it calculate sum. And then I need a parameter to be like the number. If you give me a number, I need to do something with that number. Now what is going to happen is that, well, basically, when I have the number, I just need to do this based on this n, and I need also to have the sum to be declared here. And after doing all the calculations, I'll just return the sum. That's what I did, right? I just took off from here. Well, I don't need this to be inside here. I just need the number to be read, because I need to read it from here and then have the value given to me. And then instead of me doing anything, like I can display the sum of, I don't want to display, I'm just going to say the sum is, for simplicity. And I'd like to have the result, which is, I'm going to have this calculate sum with the number given to me by the user. Now this number is going to be inside this n, and then it's going to calculate this and returns the sum, so I should see the sum. Now here's the problem. Non-static method calculate sum cannot be referenced from a static context. Now this is where the static method comes in. Now up to now, this calculate sum is a method from this class. But because this class has the main, and the main is static, the main has to be static. If you call a method from a static method, this method cannot be non-static, so it has to be static. So in this case, I have calculate sum, which is not static, and I'm calling it from inside of a static method, and that's what this message is telling me. Non-static method calculate sum cannot be referenced, cannot be called from a static context, which means I have no option but to make this static. Now what making it static is going to just work, and that's all we need to know for now about the static methods. Of course, a static method is going to be also have the same property. If I'm in another class, I can just use the name of the class dot, and then the static variables are going to be available, and the static methods as well. Same thing with the math class. You remember the math class? The math dot, you see, all these are methods that are static. For example, we used to use this pow to use the power. If you just click on this one and click on the control key and press the control key on the keyboard and then click on it, it will take you to the class and the method, and you can see that this method is static, and it calls another thing, but it doesn't matter for us. What's important now is just to realize that this is static. It returns something such as a double, it takes to a double, but it's a static method. And the advantage with NetBeans is that if you keep your control key pressed, you can navigate through all these classes, and you can follow what's this class and etc. What does it mean, etc., etc., etc. So anyways, that's a static method. A static method is sometimes needed because I have no other options. If I'd like to just have a inside of a main, I have a lot of things, a lot of processing, and I'd like to give them some piece of code, give it a name, and to make it do something. Like for example, in here it calculates something and then return a result. or I just would like to put all these things, I can put all these into another method. I don't know, do something. Now this do something, now because it's like this, I'd like to make it void. So public void do something. Doesn't take any argument, but I can do what this is going to. I just need to make it static, of course. So this do something, just it's a method that does something, and then it calls another method that calculates the sum. But the main idea is that a static method is just a method that is called from the static method, that is needed to be called from the static method. Or, like in the case of the the math class, if you want to have a method that you don't need to really create an object to be able to use it, then you can you can make it static. Now, the closest example that we have done to use this with the static method is with the exercise. I think the exercise 2 in week 13, was it? The one we had the utils. Let me open that. In week 13 we did the utils class. The utils class, if I remember, that was exercise 2. Yes. So this, you see, when I did this, in order for me to use this class, exercise 2, week 13, no, I meant for the main. See, I had to create an object, but basically I don't really need, because this object doesn't have any instance variables or such. I could have just made these to be static, and it would have been more useful. So if I have something like this, like for example this class, it just has a lot of different kind of methods that do something that is interesting, and if I put them all to be static, what is going to happen is that when I'm in the main, I don't need to do such a thing. I don't need even to create an object. All I need to do is just use this utils dot and then call the methods that are available. Now if I just use the control space so I can see what's available, as you can see, this is what's available. These are all, now because I made them static, they're accessible without the need to create an object, which is more of what I need here, because here I'm not creating objects because I need to create an object from that class. I just wanted to have access to the method, so I created the object to have access to the method. But if I don't, I can just make it like this, for example. I don't need to create an object, and I can use it directly, because now it becomes a method of the class. Is that okay?